Fathom Home Alone is an episodic first-person horror game where you play as a victim of a home invasion. The game is available on Steam and itch.io. Atmosphere. The game's atmosphere is mostly of tension and paranoia. As the title implies, something is going to happen since you're home alone, but it's unclear what or when. It starts off very calm, but there's a lot of little things that increase the paranoia. From the sinking feeling of the back door being open when previously it was closed, to the brief feet you can see climbing the stairs. But investigating these things leads to nothing, which is arguably worse than finding something there. The paranoia increases exponentially thanks to your character's sleeping pattern and the game's strict scripting. You know it's a mistake to go to sleep when you have the feeling that there's someone else in the house, but the game won't let you do anything else. The tension keeps increasing until it peaks just before the game ends. It's an uphill climb that does quite a lot with very little. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. The game is essentially a series of scripted events, and if you follow it from start to finish flawlessly, it's a mildly unnerving game, but deviating from the path is more interesting but often not what the game is expecting. It's very, very strictly scripted, and making mistakes often leads to deaths. The game over screens are all loud jump scares, and the most of them are preceded by an unsettling silence. Doing anything other than meeting your death completely drains the fear and tension out of the moment. But going straight into it leads to quite a sudden jump scare. The scripting both helps and hinders the game, but since the jump scares are almost optional, it's hard to give it the point. That's still one Harry Mason. Sound design. The music that plays throughout the game is pretty creepy, with some nice droning tension pieces and more subdued ambient whispers. The sound effects are stock with baked-in reverb that works pretty well with directional audio. Some of the sound effects have glitches, like the sound of eating food sometimes continues way longer than necessary, and some volumes are a little bit all over the place, with the oven being very loud even outside the house. This is a bit odd considering the game's soundtrack will reduce in volume if you shut a door, which is a neat trick. The jump scare noises are a bit over the top, but that seems to be the point. There's some issues with the sound design, and they do take you out of the moment now and then, but they're really not major. That's two Harry Masons. Gore. There isn't any gore and it didn't really need any, but it would have been nice to see what actually would happen to the player character if they had been caught. That's three Harry Masons. Story. The story, like all the others in the series, is reportedly true and is about a student left home alone for the weekend. There isn't much exposition besides a few text messages that allude to friends and family events. The home invader is never named, and besides from a police car arriving, there's not much in the way of closure. There's nothing really to go on to expand the story at all, but it's almost certainly like this due to how little story the developer was provided. At least you know by the existence of the story that whoever told it lived. It's hard to criticize a story without treading on the toes of the person who supposedly lived through it, but regardless, this story does feel lacking. Making the final score 3 out of 5 Harry Masons. The first installment in the Fist of Fathom series is a bit bare bones, but there's a solid foundation on here that gets expanded on in the later games. Again, I'd like to remind you this whole thing is down to my opinion on horror games, and if I don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I enjoyed the lasagna, I did not check the bedroom and advise you don't either. There will be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Now let's go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.